At the end of this module, you will be able to identify contact forces, define muscular force, and define friction. All type of forces can be divided into two main groups: contact forces and non-contact forces. Contact force, a force which can be exerted by an object on another object only through physical touching, is called a contact force. Contact forces are of two types: muscular force and friction. Look at the figure. Here, this weightlifter is using a type of force to lift the weights. The animals like an ox, camel, and horse provide the force of their muscles and help the man in doing harder jobs. For example, ox pulls the plough by using its muscular force. So, what is a muscular force? When we push an object such as a box or lift a bucket of water, then the force is caused by the action of muscles in our body. This force is known as muscular force. The muscular force comes from muscles of man or animals. Every physical activity comes with a use a muscle. Hence, they are muscular forces. Suppose a book is lying on a table. To lift this book from the table, some force is required. When we lift this book from the table by hand, the force is exerted by the muscles of our arm. Similarly, when we kick a football, the force is exerted by the muscles of our leg. So, the force exerted by the muscles of the body is called muscular force. Both human beings and animals exert muscular force to do work. The human beings exert muscular force for performing the various day to day activities like walking, running, jumping, climbing, lifting, pushing, pulling, kicking, stretching, squeezing, twisting, and pressing the objects. Now, let us discuss about friction. Children, a ball moving on the ground slows down gradually and stops after covering some distance. We know that a force is required to stop a moving body. This means that a force is exerted by the ground on the moving ball which opposes its motion and brings it to a stop. This force which opposes the motion of a ball on the ground is known as frictional force. We can now define the frictional force as follows. Force of friction is the force which opposes the motion of an object over a surface. The force of friction acts between the object and the surface. Example: a ball rolling on ground gradually slows down and comes to rest due to force of friction between the ball and the ground. If we stop pedaling a bicycle, it gradually slows down and comes to a stop due to a force of friction between the wheel and the road. The cause of friction is the interlocking of irregularities between two surfaces in contact. The frictional force always acts on all the moving objects, and its direction is always opposite to the direction of motion. Since frictional force arises only when the two surfaces of the two objects are in touch with each other, therefore, frictional force is an example of a contact force. So, in this module, we have learned that contact forces experienced by bodies when they are in physical contact with each other. And contact forces are of two types: muscular force and frictional force. Muscular force is due to the action of muscles, and frictional force is the force acting opposite to the direction of motion.